quick editing note just to start us off. This is going to be a two-parter. You're going to hear about 20 minutes in that I make a suggestion that like the three of us go and pick 3 movies that we want to watch from our childhood and then come back and talk about them with a certain context. And that's actually exactly what we ended up doing. So right around the 40-minute mark towards the end, it's going to feel a little disjointed and there's going to be a pretty abrupt cut. And then the episode's just going to kind of come to an end. And then that's a good time to go and pick up with the next episode. I didn't want to put them both together because then it'd be supersized and both of them are about 40 minutes long. So if you want to see where this conversation ends up, that's going to be the next episode. Childhood isn't broken, but it is being reprogrammed. This is The Slow Scroll, a conversation about kids, tech, and the slow work of growing up in a world built for instant everything. We're not here to romanticize the past or panic about the future. We're here to think harder about what kids need, what adults missed, and how schools can be a place to get it right. Each episode is a chance to untangle the messy intersection of tech, identity, learning, and growth with curiosity, honesty, and a deep respect for what childhood can still be. Have you watched some of those? I can't believe I'm about to say this, older, right? They're older movies, but they're like our childhood with your kids?
Yes. I have not watched Dennis the Menace. I can't say that.
You should. It holds up. It's very funny.
But I've introduced them to a lot of like 90s movies.
All right, list them.
Oh gosh. So I guess like one of the early ones that we did was like Hocus Pocus. Not a 90s, but Harry and the Hendersons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I watched it with my son, Free Willy. I don't know if I've watched it since I've had my daughter. Gremlins. I don't know. There's more, but they're not coming to mind.
You did Gremlins?
My husband did Gremlins.
Okay, I was gonna say I've had to pump the brakes on a lot of ones that my husband wants to show that I'm like, they're at the time, like they're 5.
Yeah.
They don't need all of that. We did Harry and the Hendersons. It was a huge hit. My kids thought I forgot about the physical comedy. And so they thought that was hilarious. Oh gosh. Yeah, we've done quite a few of course I'm drawing a blank right now. The most recent one was Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh gosh.
And my 13-year-old is going as Napoleon Dynamite for Halloween this year. So it did get him. It's the first time he's going as not a football player since he was probably 6 or 7 years old. I'm not even joking.
Fun. So we did all of like the Jurassic Park movies, but from a very young age, my son has been obsessed with dinosaurs. I was a little on the fence about when to introduce it, but yeah, so he's seen all of those, a lot of the like 90s holiday movies that I enjoy, like the Santa Claus and Home Alone and some of those ones. I feel like if we are having a difficult time deciding something as a family, I feel like some of those are ones that we can agree on.
Yeah. Those ones are funny. I will say we've watched Wicked, the movie, right? Of course, saw it in the theater a couple times. And then we watch it as a family regularly on the reg.
A couple times.
So, do I already have my tickets spot for Wicked 2 coming out? Yes, I do. So, so we watched Wicked recently. That was one of the ones we watched during recovery. And then we've been talking about The Wizard of Oz ever since we first saw Wicked in the theater. And so that's been really interesting explaining, okay, well, this is a prequel. This is based off this other story. So I've told them the story. So my son was asking, well, as we're having our movie marathons, he said, well, can we watch Wizard of Oz? And I said, sure, let's go get it and watch it. And so it's funny because my sister had seen Wicked first and had prepared me for, she said, the one scary part that the kids might have a hard time with is when the monkeys turn, because they're in pain.
Terrifying.
It's right. So I have one Scentsy one. And so I did prepare her and I said, it looks real, but I want you to know that it's computer generated. Those aren't real animals. So she knew going into it, she was kind of preparing herself for that part. And then after the fact, she was like, it wasn't so bad. I remembered it was computer, yada, yada. Well, then I was kind of teasing him because I couldn't really remember what the monkeys in the original one were like. I just remembered they were creepy to me as a kid. And so I said, ooh, just wait till you see the monkeys in this one. I was kind of and hyping it up. And is this when the monkeys are going to come? Is this when the monkeys are going to come? And I just kept saying, just wait, just wait. And then it was such a letdown when the monkeys finally showed. They were, what? That's it? And they said, oh, that's not scary. And we've talked a lot about like the special effects and how the special effects don't hold up, on some of those quote unquote scary movies. So I do think with Jurassic Park, I haven't done those ones with the kids yet. I feel like well, again, my Scentsy one that's not her genre, but I wonder about that. Like, is it as scary as it seemed for the kids, right? Because we hadn't really seen that, we hadn't really seen that portrayed or had as much access to the different sensationalized media, right? And so it's interesting to me that my kids can see something that I watched at their age and know that it's not scary, where it really made an impact on me, right? Gremlins, you heard my reaction. That had such an impact on me as a kid. There's no way I would show that to my kids, right? And honestly, I mean, my daughter has the Furby. It's probably a lot just like a dark, creepy Furby.
That might make it worse.
Well, so
there's a gremlin in her room at this moment.
Wow, we have some weird, creepy stories about the Furbies, and then there was this other thing she brought home. That's another story, but there's been some weird stuff with those toys.
In full transparency, on occasion, there are things that my husband has seen that I have not. And he's like, how did you have a childhood without? So Gremlins happened to be one of them. So I didn't fully know what I was getting into with that. And then, there's a couple parts where I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if this is a good thing. And my youngest, she is pretty sensitive. So I do remember her being spooked a little bit, but things like Jurassic Park, I feel like as they got further into, I don't know, 3, 4, then, Jurassic World, it was different. I feel like, 1 and 2 were a lot more innocent in nature, and because the technology is old, it's a little bit easier, I think, to see the animatronics in it. And so we had a lot of...
It holds up pretty well, man. I'm thinking like Jurassic Park 1, like that's a pretty good job.
So I don't know. We had good discussion after. But I did think it would give my son nightmares because he was really young. I think he was like 5.
Oh, okay. That was my next question, is because your guys' kids are a little older than mine. So I've got a 5 and a 3-year-old, 6 and a 3-year-old, almost 7. we got a countdown in the kitchen to his birthday. So an almost 7 and a newly-ish 3-year-old in July. And I remember, just speaking of Jurassic Park, I remember having that on like on a Saturday as I was cleaning or something. The boys are playing, and I turned on Jurassic Park, just have it go in the background, because killer soundtrack, seen it a million times, don't have to watch it, can just hear what's going on, and you can play the movie in your head type of thing. And I remember the scene, the iconic one where they're on the island for the first time, and it's the standing up out of the Jeep meme moment where they're like, oh, and the music swells. And just at that moment, my youngest, my 3-year-old, who was 2 at the time, came into the room and made the same face that Laura Dern did. And I was like, this is a beautiful moment. I am watching this kid awestruck, like in wonder about what's happening on the screen, and dinosaur and like that whole thing. So that's funny. I'm listening to you guys talking about the movies you're watching with your kids and just knowing that I'm a little bit behind in that journey, like wondering when the appropriate time. What they've really started to do is my 3-year-old will say, "Can we watch Lord of the Rings?" Like not knowing what that is, just knowing that dad really wants to watch Lord of the Rings. And so like Saturday or Sunday morning, I put on The Hobbit. And because that's technically a kid's book, not a 3-year-old's kid's book, but 5, 6, 7 can be reading The Hobbit. And so I was like, I put on The Hobbit knowing that they're not going to, and they were so bored so fast, right? Like they're just like, couldn't have cared less. But we did watch, every now and then we'll do like a movie night, we'll all get popcorn, we'll sit on the couch, we'll watch a movie. And the rule is we all have to watch something. We have to watch something that we all want to watch. And so we turned on Dennis the Menace over the weekend because we're just kind of scrolling through, like it was like on Netflix or something. And I was like, "Oh, look. And the boys, of course, have no idea. And my wife's like, yes, right? And when they were sick over the summer, we showed them Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And that was a big hit. And man, Dennis the Menace is so freaking funny. Like it holds up. The acting is adorable. It's got Walter Matthau, right? Like just an icon. But and then after that, I was like, man, we said to Anna, I was like, we have to get on the train of some of these like 90s movies. And it's funny, the ones I listed were not the ones that you guys did. Hook. I'm excited to Hook, Flubber, like really anything Robin Williams, apparently. There were a couple others that I was just like,
Miss Doubtfire was a big hit.
Absolutely. They'll get a kick out of her face in the pie. Hello, that whole thing.
Yep.
But
Beethoven. We did Beethoven because I have an animal lover, and that one again, the physical comedy there. It's so funny, and that's what holds up, right? Kids still think that's so funny when watching a dog run across the table, making a huge mess.
Yes.
What about Homeward Bound?
We've done those. We did Homeward Bound.
You want them to cry?
See, they're all coming back to me now.
My daughter totally did cry.
Oh,
she. Oh, the cat. They're never going to make it home. And I'm like, don't worry. Just give it a moment.
I'm not sure if I could. I didn't grow up with dogs. Now having a dog, I'm not sure I could handle that. Like at the end, he makes it over. Spoilers for like a 40-year-old movie, but the golden retriever makes it over the hill at the end. But you're kind of like, oh,
I know. Yeah, no, that's a great moment. The one recently that we were in disagreement. We have a similar. Everybody has to want to watch it, but we're kind of in this 13-year-old, 9-year-old. There's a span of interest. We're really close. And there's some things that, can hold interest. But the other day, my husband and oldest were going to go downstairs and they were talking about some of them. And I said, okay, but just not Back to the Future. I said, that one I want to be a part of.
Okay.
You guys watch Back to the Future. Yeah. No. Like I didn't want them to watch it without me.
Gotcha.
But again, like that's one where I don't know. I think we were exposed to a lot of stuff in the 90s that I'm a little more sensitive to with my kids around the...
Yes. The Debbie made a kissing motion for anybody if this makes it in. Yes. Okay. So this brings me to a couple of things. One, we sent the boys as Marty and Doc last Halloween, and that was us. Like we showed Micah enough of Back to the Future for him to be interested in Marty and want to skateboard. And then the 2-year-old didn't have a choice. We're like, you've got frizzy hair. We're putting a lab coat on you, buddy. And so we are slowly getting out of that phase. Like even this year, our 3-year-old wanted, like he's going to be Lightning McQueen, which I don't think we've even watched Cars, which is going to be my point here in a second. We start up Dennis the Menace, and Micah goes, our 6-year-old goes, this movie, what do you say, sounds old. And I was like, I wonder what he means by that. And like maybe the audio quality, But a few things that I noticed well, first, actually, to preface this, have you guys seen that clip of Jonathan Haidt talking about like what appropriate screen time is? So Jonathan Haidt, author of Anxious Generation, appropriate screen time is, where he essentially says like encourages people to have movie nights and watch like long form storytelling with their kids. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. No.
It's real short. We can link it in the show notes. Vanessa, it's essentially he's given this interview and he says, touch screens with immediate feedback are the problem because that's behavior training. It's there's the actual term for it. Like it's a variable reward system. And that's what's training your brain is like you're clicking on things and you're interacting with things and it says instant feedback always. And
dopamine.
Mm-hmm. Well, part of what I liked about the Anxious Generation so much was that he also he's the only person I've seen in this space give like a rational take on what good and bad screen time is. So he kind of follows it up with like, have a movie night with your family, but sit next to them, put your phone away, watch the movie with them, listen to their questions, like pretend it's the 90s and you have nothing else distracting you, like really sink yourself into that moment. But he talks about how good long form storytelling is, good versus evil, morality, consequences. Mm-hmm. And so I've been trying to be really cognizant of that when the kids want to like watch something. I'm not forcing 90s movies down their throat, but also kind of am. I've been
manufactured consent.
There you go. I've been listening for opportunities for their questions. And so when Micah says this movie sounds old, maybe I'm reading into this, but it made me compare and contrast to some of the other things that have been put out a little more recently, like in the last 5 years. Slower pace. Like you've got this kind of long form credit opening. Like Debbie kind of made the joke. I'm not sure if I was supposed to watch Dennis the Menace before this. Go watch Dennis the Menace. Like they open up with this like kind of extended credit sequence where they're setting the scene. They're showing the town. They're showing this like their tree house and just these establishing shots, no dialogue, like real small town feel music, but a very slow start. And like, if you compare that to kids media these days, you are in it all the time. Half the time these things are like sped up, like literally the frame rate is faster. And it's just like constant stimulation. And this was an exercise in patience for them as we got into this movie. It was really, really interesting.
I'm sorry. I just have to say, did you not hear me say that I watched The Wizard of Oz?
I'm very impressed.
And so it was funny because, Marvin has the broken arm. And so I was getting him all settled with the pillows and he wanted me to wait to start the movie. And I said, it's okay. We have time. And so by the time I got him all set up and then he was all cozy, everybody was seated. And then finally it was still going.
You're not even going to see color for the first 20 minutes, right, buddy.
Oh, but watching their faces when the color came was so interesting. And same thing, we were looking up when the movie was made. It brought up all these other questions. But yes, that it feels old, it sounds old, it looks old. There is a quality. There's also something that happens on the TVs where those older movies don't fill the full screen. Yeah. So that's sort of unfortunate. But that's something I've noticed too with and my husband can't stand watching like the newer cartoons because of that fast paced. He says it's too much, it's overstimulating. And that's generally why he will look at his phone or he does zone out when we're watching those types of movies because he says, I just can't, like his brain can't follow it. And that is true. That does happen. But yeah, I love that you kind of honed in on that. And that's exposition. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the exposition of the story. It still happens in the films and in the movies that we're seeing now, like the ones that are being made more currently, but it happens differently. And so I mm-hmm. think that's a really interesting storytelling technique too.
Well, and the entertainment is a little bit more subtle in that you're not bombarded with a bunch of like technicolor or fast-paced talking. I think Disney and Pixar, I mean, they really started to make their bones on like, we're making entertainment for kids and for adults, right? Like you can go to this movie, watch this with your kids, and there's something in here for you as well, which is very clever and super fun. Like, don't get me wrong. I love a lot of those Disney Pixar movies, but like super accessible animation, you've got your movies like Dennis the Menace or Flubber, or Jack was one of the other ones with speaking of Robin Williams, right?
I saw that in the theater with my grandma.
And see, and even the way you said that, right? That isn't about the movie, that's about an experience with your grandmother. Yeah. And so like watching, when I messaged you guys over the weekend, I was like, we're watching Dennis the Menace. 1, you should watch this movie. And 2, it has me thinking about safetyism, which is a concept that Jonathan Haidt talks about in The Anxious Generation. It's because, well, actually, no, before we get into this, I said to Anna, as we're like just kind of debriefing the movie and the conversations we had with our kids, I was like, you know what, like the three of us should do here is we should do like a film study, and we should go watch like a bunch of 90s movies and then pick out like themes and compare and contrast them to like entertainment for today. And like, it's an excuse to walk down nostalgia lane. But also, if you think of, I'm thinking of some very specific things in Dennis the Menace. So again, I'm not sure the last time you watched this, but there is this scene where they're playing like neighborhood hide and seek. Do you remember that?
It's playing that or from the movie?
Yeah. Itself? So it's in the summer, right? The whole premise of the movie is that it's during the summer and Dennis has to go somewhere because like no babysitter will watch him. And so that's why he goes and he's with the grumpy old neighbors as the neighbor, or the wife of the grumpy neighbor is very, very nice, but they like his parents are out of town, whatever. But there's this scene where it's a summer evening in this like picturesque, idyllic town, small town, anywhere USA, which we're going to come back to. I'm saying that for a reason. They're playing neighborhood hide and seek. There are like 50 kids on a summer evening, like someone's counting on a tree and everyone else goes running. And the joke in that scene is there's this like little toddler and oh dang, Mr. Wilson, the neighbor, who insists he's not a grumpy guy and doesn't dislike kids, goes up to this like 3-year-old and is like, hey, I just heard from your dad. He's going to the ice cream store and he wants you to join him. And this little cross-eyed kid's like, okay, and takes off. But like the whole point is like, Mr. Wilson is seen as kind of this curmudgeon grump because he's the only one in the neighborhood that doesn't want the kids. He wants the kids to get off his lawn. Right. But everyone else is totally fine with this. There are parents sitting on their porch watching these kids have a great time, but all the kids are occupied and all the parents are. And so I turned to Anna and I was like, when people wax poetic about the good old days and in the 80s, we didn't come home till the streetlights were on. I bet you part of that is true. I wonder how much of that is manufactured nostalgia because of movies like this. And I think that is interesting. It has me like, I text you guys and I said, it has me thinking about safetyism, which again, that concept being that we've made the world so safe for kids that they're going to end up getting more hurt because they don't have the skills to deal with adversity. But here's this, I think it said it came out in like 94, 93. Here's this early 90s movie that has this completely and totally fictionalized town. Like Christopher Lloyd, the main villain of the movie, steps off this train and he literally says, he looks out at this town and he goes, look at that. I bet you they don't even lock their doors at night. And I don't know, man. I have never lived in a place as a child of the 90s. I have never lived in a place that was just that secure. I did meet my roommate in college who lived in a very small town and he wasn't locking his doors in Spokane but then I went to his house and he lived like 4 miles from his nearest neighbor. And so that's a very different kind of than like they're in this traditional suburban neighborhood in Dennis the Menace. And I'll give you guys space to talk here in just a second. But what really stuck out to me is Micah, my 6-year-old, during that hide and seek scene. He goes, "What are they doing?" And like we play hide and seek this morning before school. Like he knows what that is, but he was confused by this community this outdoor community that was all kind of running free, kids about his age, and just all playing together outside at night. And I said, they're all playing hide and seek in their neighborhood, and they're just like hiding in other people's lawns. Isn't that cool? And then I said, wouldn't it be cool to have a bunch of friends in the neighborhood where you could do something like that? And he was like, yeah, but that's like not really his world, right? Like his world, I've talked about it before, his world is us setting up play dates for him. So I don't know. I saw Debbie have a visceral reaction when I said, I wonder how much of that is manufactured nostalgia, but
no, I think you're right. It's just one of those things. I love when you say something and it was a light bulb that probably, of course, it's media. That's it, what its job is to give us those feelings. So you're probably very right about that. But I will say it is also rooted in reality. And I think I started this by saying, before we started recording, I think I said, I'm going to stop talking about my village. But I will tell you that my kids play neighborhood hide and seek. And we will go out to the beach, and they wait for it to get dark. So they have the woods and the beach. They call it Ghost in the Graveyard, which is
we did play that growing up.
Yeah, but it does still happen. You know, I have memories of growing up playing, I think, Kick the Can. Did we talk about this in a different episode? Where maybe, I don't remember, but
yeah, I don't remember. Go for it.
Yeah, but no, I just mean there is this sense of let your kids go play. They will have conflict. It's sometimes really interesting to me to hear about the conflict that comes up and gets resolved without us even knowing, right? It's like, oh yeah, 2 times ago, blah, 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 blah. You know, so I think that's the part that's really great for these kids, is for them to have these moments where they have to figure it out, because they do know if they all start coming and interrupting the grownups, it's probably going to get shut down. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, so I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but,
well, on the weekends, we've been telling the boys, you can stay up as late as you want, as long as you are outside playing. Like the second you come inside and you bug mom and dad, we're going to bed. It's amazing. Now, we've shot ourselves in the foot a little bit, because then it gets to be a little bit late and we're like, all right, we need to get the kids to bed. And like, you said we could play as long as, like, all right, you got us on that one. So we gotta switch up our wording, but I think you're right on in that one.
I guess what you made me think of, Stefan, when you were talking about like the portrayal of the neighborhoods during this period of time. And I guess the first thing that came to mind is like, who had part in like creating that for this specific movie scene, and like, is that applicable to everyone's experience from that period of time? And maybe this is just a reflection of where I am as an individual, and maybe as a parent also, but kind of struggling with like what that line is, because I am in a space with my own kiddos where my son can ride his bike to school and he can go out in the evenings with friends and explore, and I don't have to worry too much. I know they're going to come home, and it's just kind of, like, what is that level of comfort that I have with them being, slightly mischievous because they're 13 and 14-year-olds.
The Sandlot. That's the other one.
That
Sorry.
was and that's another one that has the pool scene.
Oh, yes. Wendy Peppercorn.
Yes.
You just saying, am I okay with them being slightly mischievous, just made me think of the scene where she's like, run, go get into trouble, scrape your knees, which is interesting because what was that, late 80s? Like it almost, let's look it up just that way it doesn't super, I guess, bug me. It's just interesting that, I'm sorry, I got to stop cutting you guys off. No, that's 93. That's early 90s. Mm. It just takes place in the 60s. But the idea that in the 90s, a 60s mom would be telling her son, like you're being too safe. You know, like we understand the value of you getting your pants dirty, getting some holes in your jeans and getting into a little bit of trouble. Yeah. Sorry, Vanessa, you were saying you were navigating this with your own kids.
Yeah, just trying to find that balance, like so many parents are. And because you had specifically, Stefan, like mentioned safetyism and kind of your wonderings around that as you guys were watching Dennis the Menace, it just made me question kind of like my own thinking around that. And I guess the conclusion that I had come to is like there are certain levels of risk that I'm willing to have my kiddos engage in. And I think as educators, it's kind of our responsibility in a certain way to allow spaces where they can fail, so that they don't have that like perfectionist mindset and are afraid to try in the first place. And yet, in certain circumstances, I think that there's a level of like privilege in that, right? So maybe kind of, what's happening geopolitically, but I'm, thinking about access to healthcare and who might be able to make that last minute ER trip. If you have some sort of copay, how might that be different if my level of privilege was not where it is now? Thinking about the time off that it might take to go in and do some sort of emergency visit, follow-up appointments, all of those pieces. So yeah, I don't know. I guess
it's why Ruby Payne says no one lifts them up by their bootstraps out of poverty, right? Like you need someone most of the time, the vast majority of the time. You need someone to help you out. You need a mentor, you need a coach, you need a helping hand of some kind, because I've been privileged enough not grow up in any sort of abject poverty. And I just remember hearing someone who came from poverty once say, no one really understands how expensive it is to be poor, because you're right. Like your car breaks down or your kid, is climbing a tree and breaks their ankle or whatever, right? That can be backbreaking, metaphorically. I guess I should have used a different term for that, but you know what I'm saying? Like yeah, you do, was your point. Of course, you know what I'm saying. And not something I had thought about, not something I take into account as I'm over here complaining that my kids don't take enough risks, right? I guess I have not done a good job of recognizing the privilege that like I have the time, the space to be like, go get in trouble, Well,
there are a lot of picture books, and I think even for my 13-year-old, I'm not saying I have done a good job of this by any means, because I think we wait for like opportunity to come up, but it's sometimes I don't know I think that's a privilege too, and I don't think that that's necessarily the right way to go about it. And honestly, like this, and I know this is gonna sound really privileged, but like I don't want to burst. Even my 13-year-old is still pretty naive about the world and very optimistic. And there's just a part of me that like he still doesn't know about school shootings. Like
wow.
he knows that
good for you.
He knows that they do drills. Like obviously, but he doesn't know that it's a thing that now it's probably only a matter of time because we're in that world now where his friends have phones and social media. So I probably need to do something about this sooner than later so he's not totally shocked. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't want him to think that like I don't want him to worry about being at school and something bad is going to happen. I don't want to like take that childhood and that innocence away before I have to. My daughter is 9 and all her little friends are trying to become little grown up and she's still playing with stuffies and like, she does not have to change herself for the world, right? Like that's where I'm coming from. And I just want to hold on to this innocence and this pure of spirit and pure heart as long as I can. And So yeah, I don't know though, but like I think we're probably not far from like, oh, the next time there's a major event in the that like he might hear about it, you know. So but I had like my nephew who's a few years older than him, I had to pull him aside once because he was talking to me about some stuff that was going on in the current world at that time. This was about a year ago, and I had to pull him aside and be like, please don't. And he got it. He understood. I was just like, but he said to me, like, okay, but you should probably talk to him at some point. And I'm like, yeah, thank you, 15-year-old.
For the parenting advice. Well, so the message I want moving forward with my boys when it comes to safetyism is the unspoken piece is there are going to be consequences. You know, when they go to a high school party and they make some choices maybe they shouldn't, if and when, and they're in trouble, I want them to know that above all, they can call me or mom. And no matter what, our priority is to keep them safe, is to take care of them, is to love them. And there will be some consequences. It doesn't mean that if they go to a party and they make some really poor choices that, well, I'm so glad you called me. And because you called me, we're all hunky dory. No. I'm waking the kid up the next morning at 5 a.m. with a hangover, and we're going to go do some yard work. There's going to be some consequences. It's going to be bad. And it's hopefully never going to happen again because that's what parenting is. But my job is to protect them and support them when they make bad decisions. And so I want my boys to know that no matter what situation they're in, they have the resource of their parents. And they can always ask questions. That's my biggest concern, like with my 6-year-old at school, is he doesn't share a lot of things that happen at school. And so like waiting for those opportunities to address some life lessons, we are reliant on some other snitches in his class who tell their parents everything. And so then speaking of a village, Anna talks to those moms. That's the network of moms really. And then we can strategically ask questions to him about like, hey, did this happen at school? Or we'll hear about it 2 weeks later and be like, it'd been really nice to know that's what happened at school, you know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why you need boy-girl twins. Because apparently they will always snitch on each other.
There you go.
They would just get each other in trouble. And I was like, I can't wait till you guys have each other's backs and it's you against us, like the parents. Yeah. Like you have, you know, and then Cam later was like, you're going to regret saying that someday. And I'm like, well, right now, I just want them to be best friends. Like, that's all. But
part of me wonders, like, I guess to the comment that we had got, like, I don't have a community. So I feel like in previous episodes, we talked a lot about like modeling this, having conversations within your community, that sort of thing. And what happens when you don't have that. But also I think about students and the importance of relationships, and like one trusted adult can make all the difference for kids. But what if they don't have the adult? They don't have someone modeling like reasonable risk taking. So I don't know that I have answers, but
I think that, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just that's something that's circling in my brain is, you know, you're talking about if this situation were to happen, your kiddo, you know, like they know that they can call you. But what if you're a kid that hasn't had those conversations, if they don't have that one trusted adult? Like, is there another way that we can help them, you know, find that support? And I think sometimes that's where community organizations come into play, mentorship, different things like that. But as a high schooler, I don't know how connected I would have been to those resources or willing to reach out on my own.
It's why schools need extracurriculars. Like my biggest knock. Oh, so go ahead.
No, you go. Well, I just,
I was going to say my biggest knock against, but it's not because they had them. I was more overjoyed when the high school that I was working at as a coach, when I realized they had like a tabletop gaming club, not just because I like playing board games, but I was like, how great for your kids who don't want to be a part of your traditional extracurriculars, your yearbooks or your, theater or sports or ASB or whatever. You have this resource, and that was student created. Like it was a student who went to a teacher that said, hey, how come we don't have something like this? And all the teacher had to do was say yes and be there for an hour and a half every Tuesday, every week, and could, like those types of things to connect students are super important. And what you're talking about is the importance of a relationship in a classroom, right? Like getting to know your kids, knowledge of students, and having a wide variety of ways that kids can connect to schools, because it's not just about academics. Like the academics are important, but the school childhood is so much more than that. And if they don't have a trusted adult or mentor outside of school, then there is no way that we can teach kids everything they need to know about what it's like what they need to know outside of school, right? But you have to create the opportunity for those lessons or for those experiences to be like taken advantage of, right? And like the only way you can do that is to get kids talking to each other, asking genuine questions. Like one of the questions I know you guys get all the time, but and I do as well, is like, how do I make this lesson engaging? Like, and oftentimes an answer to that from a teacher might be, well, I'm going to go find something they're interested in, and that's how I'm going to frame the lesson. And I think that's a good first step. But in my head, I'm always going, you've got maybe 25% of your kids who are actually going to think that's interesting. And
you can't do that for everybody.
You can't do that for everybody. And the second you bring it to the table, it's not interesting anymore. Mm-hmm. Like you don't understand the 6-7 thing. No one does. It means nothing, but you want to make it go away. Just start doing it as an adult, because then it's not cool anymore and it's not funny. Right.
I know my son refuses to talk slang around me because he knows I will just
destroy
it. Yeah. And then say it and embarrass. Yeah. It's my strategy.
But you have to make those activities universally accessible for kids to generate those conversations themselves.
Right. This goes back to how are you designing learning? And this is a frustration of mine, is that like, I'm going to say like, okay, so when I was at Kettle Falls High School and we switched to trimesters, it was a blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they went back because it was a disaster, but it was supposed to give kids more opportunity to like have electives. And so it gave us a bigger workload, but I was able to teach drama. We were able to offer a drama elective. And this came from kids coming to me asking for something like this, right? And the whole time I worked at Kettle Falls, I had a safe space poster up in my classroom. I had two. I had one by the door and I had one like in the back corner. And it was like in the sign of a stop sign, and it had like rainbows, but it had like safe space, and it kind of explained like what it was. Very simple. And I just had them in 2 spots in the classroom. The kids who came to my drama class it wasn't because they loved drama. It was truly the catch-all. It was, and anytime and kids started bringing their other friends, they would be like, you need to come to this class. And it was an elective, so I had so much room to do whatever I wanted. But it's like...
So to pull us back to like an earlier conversation.
Yeah, all this over Dennis the Menace.
No.
Maybe, okay, sorry, just a side. Maybe I think this is a good starter. Maybe what we do is I'll go watch it and then come back and we can like do this again. Like, and maybe even take some of what we talked about at the beginning and clip it in. But like,
yes
I think this was like kind of a brainstorm for
all of us.
That's it for this episode of The Slow Scroll. These are messy and important conversations, and we're glad you're in them with us. If something sparked your thinking or unsettled it, we hope you'll sit with it, talk about it, and bring it into your work with kids. You can connect with us, ask questions, or provide feedback using the link to the feedback form in the show notes. Feel free to share the episode, send it to a colleague, or keep the dialogue going in your own circles. Just don't stop talking about what matters.